Hey everybody, it's Maxine Taylor with another edition of my Trumpology report. And because so many of you have asked me about Brett Kavanaugh's uh, chart, uh, one of you said, what do I think of him? Well, I don't know. So I looked up his planets. Unfortunately, we do not have a birth time for him. Um, it's too soon and we may not have one. So what I can give you is a solar chart. If any one of you happens to have a birth time on him, if you would be kind enough to share it, I would be so pleased, and I'll give you total credit for it when I redo his chart so that we have a complete look at Brett Kavanaugh. In the meantime, I've got to do a solar chart, which means it's not the exact chart, it's not a complete picture, and it's better than nothing. Now, after I give you a thumbnail sketch of his chart, then I'm going to compare it to the United States chart and to Trump's chart so that you get an idea of what all's going on, okay? So, here is the solar chart for Brett Kavanaugh. Naturally, we're going to put his sun, which is in Aquarius, and any other Aquarian planets in that first house. His sun, Mercury, and Venus are all in Aquarius. This is a humanitarian. It's also a person who marches to his own drummer, which is very, very interesting. People with strong Aquarius in their chart think of what's best for the whole rather than the individual. There is, with his Venus there, Venus is how we love. There is an impersonal note to it. I had a student once who said she was married to an Aquarian and she was trying to get her husband to say, I love you. And so she kept walking around the house saying, I love you, I love you. And finally she said, do you love me? And he said, look, I told you I loved you last week. I hadn't changed my mind. There's your Venus in Aquarius, friends. Okay, Mercury, the way we think and communicate in Aquarius. Again, what's best for the whole rather than the individuals within the whole. And this can be very universal. In other words, the person with Mercury in Aquarius has a very universal way of thinking, of expressing themselves, and again, thinks in terms of what's best for the whole, meaning if it's good for one person, it's good for all people. Now, the sun in Aquarius too, which is the ego, brings the total picture of the Aquarian, his thoughts and his love nature. Very beautiful. Saturn, the planet of reality and restriction very often, is in Pisces in his second house. And so he has a very conservative approach toward money. Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is reality, and Pisces often tends to be a dreamer. Certainly has divine inspiration, and so he can take the dream and make it real. But he has concern over his own income. I don't mean he's scared to spend $1, but it's the test in the use of responsibility when it comes to money for him in this incarnation. He has Jupiter in Taurus in his fourth house. Jupiter is the great benefic. It is a beautiful planet. It brings blessings. The fourth house is home, family, and real estate. Now, his nodes, the north node in the fifth, the south node in the 11th. The nodes are karmic, and I'll get to that when we talk about Trump's chart because the comparison is fascinating. Wherever, I'm going to jump over to the south node first. Wherever the south node is that quality by house position and sign position that you have mastered in past lives. Now I put house position first. So he has mastered the art of humanity, of working with the whole. of being a friend. The only problem with that is you can get a little carried away with the south node. If you spend too much time where the south node is, it can drain you. So the solution is the north node, and that's in his 5th house of children and fun, games, enjoyment. The 11th house is other people's children. It is humanity. Who are other people's children? Everybody else who's walking this planet. So this once again brings in the connection from a past life with humanity, all that Aquarius. Now, because we do not have a birth time for him, if he was born shortly after midnight, his moon is in Gemini. Otherwise, his moon is in Cancer. The moon rules Cancer, and this is a very emotional placement, a very sensitive placement, a very intuitive, nurturing placement for the moon ruling Cancer. Of course, it's in his 6th house of work, health, and service, and so this is a man who does want to serve, for sure. And he was encouraged by his mom to serve, whether she verbalized it or not. Now look over here at his back 8th house. Very, very interesting. The 8th house deals with secrets. It deals with other people's money. It deals with many things. But in a solar chart, I'm just going to keep it very practical and mundane. This is the house of other people's money. It's also the house of transformation. Any planets you have in the 8th house will undergo a transformation in this lifetime. So his karmic group is, let's see, his birth year, his birthday, February 12th, 1965. So he is in the same karmic group as many, many, many of you. And that karmic group is the Uranus-Pluto conjunction. Uranus, the rebel. Pluto wants to control it or transform it. And so there's the conflict in this, that this karmic group gave itself prior to incarnating, which is to control rebellion. Because once it lets it rip, it's all or nothing. So with Uranus in his 8th house, there's a natural psychic ability. He will be letting go of any rebellion in this lifetime. Pluto is the natural ruler of the 8th house, even though, of course, Pluto and Uranus are in Virgo for this karmic group. And this means the need to be in control is very strong, as is the need to transform. This is a very powerful placement for a Supreme. I call everybody on the Supreme Court a Supreme. And with Mars in the 8th as well, let me see the degrees here. Okay, yes. It's a little wide. Uranus is 13 Virgo, Pluto is 15 Virgo, and Mars is 26 Virgo. So Mars is not conjunct those two because, you know, Mars is incendiary. However, there is a great emphasis on taking care of all the details with Mars, Pluto, and Uranus in Virgo and in the 8th house. So he's going to be dealing with lots of secrets and mundanely other people's money. Now, his Neptune in the 10th house, very interesting, in Scorpio, which is part of that karmic group of people born in the mid-60s. Neptune in the 10th house Neptune is your dream, it's your fantasy, it's your escape, it's what you wish. And so it's in his 10th house of career, which means that his public image, he is seen in the eyes of other people the way they choose to see him. He can appear to be like a savior and maybe even wants to be that type of person. His dream is to be in a position of authority, 10th house, where he can serve and inspire. And we've talked about the nodes. All right. Now, let me just get organized here. A chart comparison can take a long time to do. because there's so much involved. When we don't have the birth chart, a birth time, therefore an accurate birth chart for one of the people, it gets a little bit, you can't really get a handle on what's going on, is what the problem is. However, I think I've got some helpful information for you. I'm going to start with Trump's chart. Let me just I'm putting Trump's natal chart under my laptop here. So I'm so sorry for shaking up the screen. Okay. Where do I want to start? This is so fascinating. Let's start with that 10th house. Now, the North, okay, Trump's planets, the ones that are triggered, I haven't put all of them in the chart. The ones that are, well, actually, yeah, I haven't put all of them in the chart, the ones that are triggered. Trump's planets are in the inner wheel in black, and Kavanaugh's are the outer wheel in blue. The North Node, Kavanaugh's North Node, which is the area of your greatest success, sits on Trump's Uranus, North Node, and Sun. And I've gone over Trump's chart with you so many times you probably haven't memorized. However, what's so fascinating is Kavanaugh's North Node is 20 Gemini. Trump's North Node is 20 Gemini. This is a karmic connection between the two of them, really, really powerful, so that Kavanaugh can help Trump's public image. He will encourage Trump's, sits on Uranus as well, so Trump's rebellion, showmanship, just the busting loose quality. I'm trying to be politically correct here, so just bear with me. It's evening, you know, my mind is going a little slower, so hang in there with me for a minute. But he triggers Trump's rebellion. Now, he also triggers Trump's Sun, and so he brings a lot, he helps Trump become well-known, he helps Trump's public image, he does wonderful things to help Trump be president, to be the leader. Now, look at this 11th house. Kavanaugh's moon is somewhere probably in Cancer. As I said, unless he's born just a couple of hours after midnight, he's got a Cancer moon, which means the moon is an emotional trigger. It touches one or more than one of the planets in Trump's 11th house of friends. So he considers Kavanaugh to be a friend. Sits on his Mercury, possibly, that helps his thinking. On his Saturn, which requires loyalty. On his Venus, which is friendship. And what I've seen and shared with you is that many of Trump's appointees trigger his 11th house planets because he chooses his friends. Look at his cabinet. He has chosen his friends to be in his cabinet and expects, and not just his cabinet, in any position. He's choosing friends or people to whom he might owe a favor. You think about that. Look at their qualifications, and you can see that he's turned to them as friends and said, please step in here, I need you. Okay. Kavanaugh's Uranus-Pluto sits in Trump's first house, and it triggers rebellion and control. It can be total Pluto rebellion or total transformation, or it can simply be that Kavanaugh tones down Trump's rebellion with his own approach. Also triggers ingenuity and innovation in Trump, while his North Node triggers Trump's rebellion and public into innovation. Kavanaugh's Mars in Trump's second house helps Trump's money. Gets him thinking in terms of money and possessions. Neptune in Trump's third house gives Trump ideas, inspiration. He can inspire Trump to speak and to express himself idealistically. Now, because the North Node is in 20 of Gemini in both Kavanaugh's chart and Trump's, that means the South Node, excuse me, the area of loss or drain it triggers Trump's South Node and the Moon. This is not good for Trump's land holdings or his family. Okay? And I hesitate to say something that's strong, but that North Node, they've been together before. There's a family tie here between Kavanaugh and Trump. I don't know what it might be without Kavanaugh's chart, but take a look here at the sixth house. Kavanaugh's Sun, Venus, and Mercury. You know, it'd probably help if I had a little hat on Mercury. Make one of these Mercury and keep the other Venus. He considers Kavanaugh to be his employee, and Kavanaugh can serve as employee and help with Trump's employees. Now, Saturn, Kavanaugh's Saturn in the seventh house hang on one second here. Here we go. Kavanaugh's Saturn, Kavanaugh's Saturn is 6 Pisces. It is within orb of Trump's ascendant, 29 Leo, a disassociate opposition. And that can hold him down when it comes to the public or give him a reality check when it comes to the public. Jupiter, Kavanaugh's Jupiter in his ninth house expands his international range, Trump's international range, allows him to see a bigger picture, and expands his public image, bringing him blessings behind the scenes. Okay, now let's look at the United States. And this is what I think is so fascinating. Because I first looked at the United States chart before I looked at the comparison to Trump's chart. Because after all, someone on the Supreme Court is going to be there for the rest of their life. And the impact, therefore, on our country after Trump has left office is going to be very important. All right. So, cool. Let's look up here at this 10th house, shall we? The 10th house in a mundane chart rules the president. It rules the party in power. It is the public image of the country. Kavanaugh's Venus, which is love, and the Venus is the lesser benefic. So it brings love and benefits to our public image. It is on the midheaven. It's also on the South Node. Now, Venus is blessings, but on the South Node, this can be overdoing a good thing when it comes to international trade for the United States. Remember, the ninth house, which is where the South Node is, rules the upper courts, foreign travel, higher education. It does rule the Supreme Court. And so this is a karmic position for Kavanaugh with the United States Supreme Court. I'm not real thrilled about the South Node. However, what it tells me, and the way I look at the South Node in a person's chart, so I'm going to apply it here too, It says that Kavanaugh brings love to any difficulty that the Supreme Court might have, number one. Number two, this is something he has mastered before, and he fits right in as the nominee. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be voted in. Remember, this is Trump's choice. We have yet to have an election on that, or a selection on it. No, it would be an election in Congress. Now, Kavanaugh's Mercury sits on our public image and on our moon, which of course represents the president, the party in power, and any leaders in our country. The sun on the moon is a very positive aspect, indicating that he brings light to our country and to the president. This is great. Saturn, Kavanaugh's Saturn in the 10th house brings reality. Okay? Even though Saturn is in Pisces, Saturn brings responsibility, meaning respond to our ability. Actually, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are quite lovely up there for the United States public image. Jupiter, Kavanaugh's Jupiter in the United States 12th house. Jupiter is the great benefic. The 12th house deals with secrets. It deals with welfare, hidden enemies, prisons and prison reform, hospitals, charitable institutions, and the past. And so there it is, bringing blessings to those areas that I just read. Very interesting. The 12th house is behind the scenes activities, and Jupiter there would be what he would bring to our country. Now, his north node is on our Mars. Mars in the first house, once again, wherever Mars is, that's what we throw ourselves into. Mars is action, it's passion, it's war, it's guns. Mars in the first house says, me first. That's our public, that's our personal attitude. And what Kavanaugh brings to the attitude of the United States citizenry is the North Node. So there can be passion that is directed positively. That's the North Node. Very interesting. Now, we don't know where Kavanaugh's moon is. It's either in the United States second house. That can bring a change to our income, our earnings, the stock market, banks, debts, and commerce and trade, or our third house of communication, news, public opinion, travel, reporters and news people, schools, and public transportation. Kavanaugh's karmic planets, two of them, Neptune is one, of course. Uranus, his Uranus is sitting right on the United States fifth cusp. The Uranus-Pluto combination is that I want to rebel, but I want to be in control. If I'm going to rebel, it's going to be total. Now, the fifth house deals with children, fun of all kinds, sports, gambling, congressional and public hearings, anything dealing with fun and enjoyment. Neptune in that fifth house can bring a certain amount of idealism or smoke screen relating to those areas. With Uranus there in his in the fifth house, his Uranus, Kavanaugh's Uranus, and Pluto, there can be a big change in those areas that I've just described. At the time that I'm recording this, of course, children of immigrants have been taken from their parents and put in orphanages, they're called cages. They've been taken out of the arms of their families. This is incredible it's incredible for that to happen in our country. On some level, Kavanaugh might be able to bring about a change. However, Kavanaugh's Mars brings fire, even though it's, it's in Virgo. It brings a passion to our dreams, to the United States dreams. That deal with children, with the birth rate, with fun, with sports, etc. He can bring energy to bear when it comes to children. Now, his Neptune is in the United States 6th house. Neptune dissolves whatever it touches, or it brings divine inspiration. The 6th house is the military, our health, our jobs, all civil servants, pets, food. Remember, tariffs have been in play recently, affecting food, importing and exporting thereof, animals, police, fire department, etc. He can bring inspiration to that, or it can be confusing. He can help dissolve situations that need dissolving, or just bring confusion. We do not know how it's going to play out. His South Node in our 7th house. This deals with international affairs, the 7th house. The public, war, lawsuits, lawyers, politics, our open enemies. He has dealt with this before in past lives. Unfortunately, the South Node there, in my opinion, does not bring help per se. It brings a remembrance, if it were in a person's chart, a remembrance of a partnership from a past life. But in a mundane chart, which means there are millions of people involved, he doesn't bring as much as the North Node brings. So it's the lower courts, it's marriage, lawyers, and all international affairs, and our open enemies. Now, this is a very simplified interpretation, and I have tried very hard to be politically correct. Some of you know I try very hard to be politically correct because we don't know how this is going to play out. So, if you happen to know somebody who knows Brett Kavanaugh's birth time, please share it with us. Send it to me. As I said, I'll give you credit for it. So, this was tonight's homework for Maxine. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it has given you the information you want. And so I'm going to leave you with my blessing. May the stars shine brightly on you. May the stars shine brightly on your country. And may the stars shine brightly on the United States of America. Peace out.